to open this event on behalf of the board of the Jewish Heritage Network. What are we commemorating today? We commemorate the establishment of a dedicated infrastructure, a state-of-the-art aggregation platform for Jewish digital heritage. We celebrate the first implementation of a linked data version of the YIVO Encyclopedia of Jews of Eastern Europe for the contextualization of Jewish heritage digital objects. I wish also to acknowledge the institutions whose support enabled the process of integration, accessibility, showcasing, and reuse of Jewish digital heritage in the context of European civilization. The Jewish Heritage Network is the result of a partnership between the Judaica Europeana Consortium and a startup initiative by Pavel and Marco Rendina a couple of years ago. The Judaica Europeana Consortium was established through a memorandum of understanding at the end of the first Judaica Europeana project. The digitized contents uploaded to Europeana are the result of the effort and investments of leading Jewish memory institutions in the world that you can see listed here in this slide. The startup brought additional technical expertise. Today, we celebrate the first result with a brand new state-of-the-art dedicated infrastructure, an aggregation platform developed by the team led by Alexander Raginsky, an expert in natural language processing and artificial intelligence. The Ministry of Culture of Italy, MIBAC, up to now, offered its platform for the aggregation of Jewish digital cultural heritage to Europeana. The new platform that we inaugurate today facilitates the work of the content partners when uploading their contents. This new infrastructure is dedicated to Jewish resources that enables their enrichment, providing them with Jewish context and significance. Dr. Rachel Heuberger, director of the Judaica Library of the Frankfurt University, was the chairperson of the Judaica Europeana Consortium until her retirement a few months ago. Rena Stanley Klamp was the director of the European Association for Jewish Culture. The AJC served as the operational arm of the Judaica Europeana Consortium until the Jewish Heritage Network took over. Judaica Link is a domain-specific knowledge base for Jewish studies. It is a spin-off from the project Digital Manuscripts to Europeana, DM2E, in which Judaica Europeana took part. Professor Kay Eckert and Dr. Maral Madvar, with painstaking dedication, have expressed as linked data several Jewish encyclopedias and other sources of Jewish knowledge. Some of them are shown here. These resources are now freely available for anyone interested in making Jewish resources intelligible, texts, multimedia, and their metadata. I must stress that curation and storytelling requires factual knowledge. A basic concept in narratology is the fabula, the raw material from which a story is imploded. I'm happy that today we commemorate the first use of a YIVO Encyclopedia of Jews in Eastern Europe for having the contents aggregated by Judaica Europeana to put into context. I wish that soon more of the available encyclopedias will be deployed. Dr. Sasha Goldstein-Sabbah had a critical role in the original publication of the Encyclopedia of Jews in the Islamic world. She is seeking now that this encyclopedia join the others already available as linked data. If her efforts succeed, the value of digital resources, such as those of the Alliance Israélite Universelle, or the Centre of the Culture Judeo-Marocaine may be utterly transformed. I wish to recognize the support that enabled the development of the Judaica Europeana initiative. The critical role of Rossella Caffo and Pier Giacomo Sola from MIBAC, the Ministry of Culture of Italy, should be acknowledged. They have included Israel in the National Representatives Group, NRG. The NRG was established to coordinate national digitization policies between European member states and preceded the establishment of Europeana. They have included Jewish cultural heritage in the different projects they initiated and are listed here. It has been a privilege to work with Pier Giacomo through so many years and now at the board of the Jewish Heritage Network. The European Commission has provided support through its various programs. These included the framework programs for RTD, the e-content and e-content plus programs, and lately now, one of the projects is Judaica Europeana 2, the CEF, Connecting Europe facility. The Europeana ecosystem is our home and template through its vision of a cultural heritage sector transformed by digital and a Europe transformed by culture. Finally, the Rothschild Foundation, Hanadiv Europe, assisted and provided matching funds for the different projects supported by the Commission. Thank you. I wish a very good meeting today.
Thank you very much, Dov. As Marco Rendina speaking, I wanted again to thank Dov for this exhaustive presentation of the heritage of the Jewish Heritage Network, starting as Judaica Europeana, and I wanted also to say a few words. I will share my screen. Sorry. Okay, this should work. Sorry for this.
Marco, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, you did it. In fact, I wasn't able to do it. So basically, as following this important legacy that Dov very extensively reported, in 2017, a group of brave people, including Dov himself, Pavel Katz, Eran Livnei, Elena Schulman, David Massart, and myself, decided to revive the idea behind Judaica Europeana, creating the Jewish Heritage Network. But this was not just a change of name, even if names are important and bring meanings with them. We also aimed at extending the original initiative along three main dimensions. Geographical, first, we wanted to extend the network and create a global platform with a solid base in Europe, but looking also outside the old continent. Scope, so we wanted to go beyond just aggregation of digital content, and we started focusing on the reuse and valorization of this content. See, for example, the Culture Chatbot project, or the Yahad.net project, and obviously Judaica Europeana 2.0. And we also focused on offering a set of digital tools and services to Jewish heritage institutions in order to support them in their digital transformation. And finally, the last dimension we tried to extend is funding and business models. We started indeed trying to differentiate our funding sources, looking also at private funders, Jewish philanthropy mainly, also outside Europe. Today, we have the privilege to have here with us Eugene Fooksman from the Fooksman Family Foundation in the US that supported some of our projects. And we started working also on projects outside the European initiative, like the one we did at Futsot, the Museum of Jewish People in Israel. And so today we arrived here with this new entity, the Jewish Heritage Network, to celebrate the achievements of the Judaica Europeana 2.0 project, but also to explore the new frontiers of Jewish digital heritage, which is the title of this event. So, next slide, please, Pavel. So we have organized the program of this event in three main sessions. The first one, chaired by Pavel Katz, will explore the technical marvels behind the Judaica aggregator and present some new promising applications that exploit this infrastructure and the aggregated digital content, featuring a presentation from Alexander Raginsky, Vadim Shestopalov, and Pavel Katz from JHN. Next slide. The second session will be chaired by Sasha Goldstein-Sabbah, and will focus on digital curation and user engagement strategies, hosting presentation from Sasha herself, Adrian Murphy from the Europeana Foundation, and Eddy Portnoy from YIVO. Next slide. And the final session will be chaired by me, and will be about sustainability of digital cultural heritage initiatives, with two great hosts, both quite crucial for the sustainability of JHN, Fulgencio Sanmartín, policy officer at the G-Connect of the European Commission, and Eugene Fooksman, president of the Fooksman Family Foundation that I already mentioned before. So this was briefly the program overview ahead of us. And now I will leave the floor to Pavel for his first session. Enjoy.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here today. It's really a pleasure and an honor to have such a nice crowd with us. So this first session is dedicated to the content that we aggregate and the technology that we use to do it. Since the scope of this event and of my session in particular is broader than Judaica Europeana 2.0, I would like first to focus on this actual project, which is the formal framework for today's meeting, and to recap that this has been a 2-year project, which is about to end in several days. We had 5 wonderful and committed partners that you can see on the right: Alliance Israelite Universelle, the Jewish Historical Museum, the coordinator of the project, the Judaica division of the Goethe University in Frankfurt, the Michael Culture Association, and Semantica from Slovenia. As was mentioned, the project was co-funded by the Connecting Europe Facility program of the European Commission. And there were essentially 2 key deliverables in this project. So the first is the technical infrastructure that we used to aggregate content to Europeana, and on this will be the first session by my colleague Alex, and he will tell you about the infrastructure that we built, that we are very proud of. And the second presentation of this session will be by my colleague Vadim Shestopalov, who will actually tell you about the content that we aggregated using this infrastructure and some challenges that we had to solve along the way. And then I will conclude the session by giving you an outlook into how we see this infrastructure serving us in the future, also for other use cases than Europeana. So Alex, the floor is yours, and I'm releasing the share to you.
Yeah, thank you, Pavel. So I'll share my screen. So yeah, thank you. My name is Alex, and I am responsible for the whole technology stack of JHN. And specifically here, we'll talk about basically the foundation of this stack is the Judaica Aggregator. It's the software, it's the system that basically was developed to serve as a main entrance point and the main connection point between the providers holding the data and the various consumers who might want to use this data for different applications. And we'll in the next couple of sessions, we'll show you also this modern and interesting application that can be done with your data. But we'll start with Aggregator itself. So this was developed mainly from scratch using open source components. So it's very modern, modular heritage content aggregation and integration system. What does mean integration? And what does mean aggregation? Aggregation is we go to the providers and we collect the data via different application programmer interface or file dumps or whatever the providers have. In integration system, we put it all together, and using the semantic enrichment, we connect data from different providers into one single point of Jewish heritage. So the aggregator consists of three major components. It's the content management system, which we're using to hold and look at the data. Then there are data processing pipelines. These are the pieces of software which connect to the endpoints of the museum, whatever they have, or to the files, and they bring and convert the data into the CMS. And then in order to use it by external parties, one of them is, for example, is the Europeana. So we developed a developer-friendly data access interface, which allows basically reuse the data and use it for engaging heritage applications. So regarding the content management system, so it's basically it's called headless CMS because it has a backend detached from the front end, and it includes also the user interface, which is really nice, modern, and pleasantly look and convenient. Then also content management system includes the powerful asset management, so include image, videos, and other files. Includes full text search, fine-grained permission system that you can define different roles in the system, starting from the administrator, then go into the editors, publishers, clients, and so on. So it can be really flexible to define which people have access to what content. Additionally, as the nature of heritage data is multilingual, we have built-in support for multilingual content that you can easily store and show the data in different languages, whatever you have. And again, it's very easy to access by developers via application programmer interface to use it in different applications. So, well, during the project, we had quite a wide range of incoming sources that we had to deal with. So we developed a range of connectors, which include all major formats and systems which I used in heritage world. So it's OAI, Mark 21, Europeana data model, Dublin core, METS, and so on. But also we connect to not just to the file formats, but other various museum systems like AdLib. And also we are working with the files and dumps. So our principle is we come to the data source, to the provider, and we take data in with whatever format they have it, and we convert it and standardize it into the internal format so it can be easily reused further. As part of this process of the data, we developed a flexible data architecture, so it will reuse many components which can be glued together into one pipeline. Internally, the data is represented as EDM. EDM stands for Europeana data model interface. And then as the output, it can go again via OAI PMH protocol to Europeana as Europeana data model. It can go directly to FFF viewers. FFF, it's the new protocol for exposing images in different formats. So you can zoom, you can do different things with the image. And then there is also application programming interface API, so that all metadata can be really easily used by different applications for developers. So just going a bit deeper, so we have many internal processes on the data, so I'll just mention a few. For example, we have semantic enrichment, the one that Dov mentioned. So here, for example, we have a museum record which was enriched by connecting it to YIVO encyclopedia, meaning that we found a connection to a certain person and we retrieved more data about this person. Their birth date, death date, biography, and so on. And this data in this format, it is propagated to Europeana and will be published on their portal using this enriched data. Additionally, as a part of the aggregation and the data processing, so we developed a validation of the metadata so that we can tell how good is the metadata, if it's full enough, does it have all the required fields, does it include multilingual support, and so on. So this is really important when we deal with Europeana, as it is also compatible with their validation framework. Another processing we do for the data is machine translation. So many times data is available only in the local language. Usually it's some of the European languages, but also Hebrew, Yiddish, and so on. And one of our efforts is at least to translate it into the English. So the title and description of each record will be available for English, and will reach people. Just will reach more people. So machine translation is one of our core services. We partner with the Spanish company called Pangianic, which is a machine translation provider for quite many years already. And another internal processing is media processing and storage. For some providers, we could just propagate the metadata to Europeana, and then Europeana would take the media directly from them. But for some of them, there was some problems, so we developed the media processing storage cloud, where we can take the data into our cloud and then expose it via different protocols. One of them is IIIF. And to summarize, so we have a state-of-the-art heritage content system, aggregation integration system. It is based on stable, feature-rich, and a very active open source components. It's Directus and Daxter, if somebody is interested in. It's highly scalable. We can put multiple instances, and they will orchestrate very well in the cloud. We pull the data instead of the push, so we minimize effort required by the content providers in order to give us their data. We are fully compatible with Europeana, supporting Europeana data model and their metadata validation framework. We expose data via API for easy use by the potential apps and developers. And there is also aggregation dashboard, which I mentioned in the first slide. Yeah, that's it. What I want to tell you today. Thank you very much.
Good day, everyone. Let me share my screen.
Sorry, there is a question for you, Alex.
Yeah.
From Eddy Kaufman. Can you say a few words about Europeana for those not familiar with it?
Yeah, so we'll have a separate session about Europeana, but this is the major European initiative for collecting, aggregating, publishing, and engaging users with the heritage data. And basically, Judaica Europeana is a project which is, it's called generic European services projects, which basically an umbrella of collateral projects which deal with Europeana, and specifically our project was dealing with the Jewish data, and was intended to bring data from the Jewish museums, archives, and libraries into the Europeana, into their major portal of the data.
And we will have a fully dedicated session about it. We have a representative from Europeana in DSM. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? Or we'll pass the floor to...
Not at the moment.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So I'll pass the floor to Vadim.
Thanks. Good day, everyone. My name is Vadim, and I'm a data engineer at GCHEN. And today I would like to present content which is published on Europeana, which is, as Alex said about it a lot, but I also would like to add that it's a European web portal for digitalized museum collections. The process of publishing includes harvesting of the data provided by partners or institutions, the mapping of this data to Europeana data model if needed, and also presenting this data OAI PMH feed, validation, and also making this data available at Europeana portal. The goal of the project was to publish 200,000 of records to Europeana, and we managed to publish almost 250,000 of high quality records. And before I start an overview itself, let me start with a few preliminaries. The first is enrichment, and just in case, the process of semantic enrichment is a process of augmenting and adding terms and linking them to the record from trusted authority sources. Here you could see a few of our enrichment sources, and it's important to mention, as Dov and Marco mentioned before, that we added source which is Judaica specific. YIVO encyclopedia was used for that. On the right, you could see the example of enriched record. The second thing, which I also would like to mention, and I already mentioned it before, is that we published the good quality records. But what does it mean? We all understand that the better quality of the data is the better for all. But in terms of Europeana publishing frameworks, there is a special term for that called tier. I'll use it a lot during my overview. The maximum possible tier is 4, and it depends on the quality and provided media and metadata of the records and the higher tiers, the better benefits the collection creates for audiences at greater potential of use. It also influences on findability, impressions, and ability to use it on open platforms like Wikimedia. So let me start with an overview of the content we published. And I'll start with Alliance Israelite Universelle, where we published more than 8,000 of records from 2 sets. The sample of the records we published, you could see on the right. It includes texts and books, sounds, and images. Over 80% of this data was tier 2 or higher, which is a good quality of data. The source was Mark 21, which is a standard format for museum digitalized collections. And we managed to enrich more than 80% of the records from the set through generic sources and more than 15 from Judaica. Another institution from France, Vadim, House of Yiddish Culture. Here we have to see that the quality of the records is very high. Over 90% of them is tier 2. All other information you could see yourself. Let's move to YIVO, Institute for Jewish Research. Here we faced a big challenge, which was mentioned by Alex. It's about serving media files, and we processed and served media as IIIF, which is a standardized method to transfer images, describing and delivering images over the web. The enrichment rate for this set is very high, and for generic sources, we have more than 90% and 20% for Judaica specific sources. For Jewish Historical Museum, we just applied the standard pipeline for transferring from Europeana data model and published almost 50,000 of records. The next institution is Leo Baeck Research Institute, and here we have faced a similar challenge with IIIF, and we finally hosted more than 20,000 of large media files through IIIF and have more than 20,000 of records from 6 sets. And also enrichment rate for these sets were very high. For Goethe University Frankfurt, we faced another challenge, and we developed a special merger for all formats mentioned here at sources, doubling formats and modes to get as much information per record as possible. And we managed to publish more than 13,000 of records from 7 sets, which were texts and books. For Jewish Historical Institute, we published more than 50,000 of records, which were books and texts, and we went through the standard procedure. For the American Jewish Historical Society, interesting thing here is that all records is still free, which is very good quality, and the source was already mentioned, Mark 21. For the Center of the Judeo-Moroccan Culture, our challenge was to process this CSV as an incoming source, and we developed another connector, which is CSV to Europeana data model converter. For Jewish Theological Seminary Library, we processed Dublin Core OEI by the standard procedure and received text, books, sounds, music, and images. For Jewish Museum Greece, we did special mapping for Europeana data model necessary fields, which were not directly indicated in the original data, which was a dump files. For National Library of Israeli, they provided us with a huge data set. It contains almost 400,000 of records. They all were harvested. We also faced another challenge with them with processing their IIIF images and providing the links to them, but publishing is still in process. For YIVO University, we also managed to download and host IIIF images, and all of the records are tier 2 or higher. American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee provided us with a small but nice set of images. We published them all, and it's tier 1. For Steinham Institute, Epidat, by the way, is a Jewish database epigraphy collection. And here's the main challenge, that data was provided from another source. It was an API, and we developed special API harvester for the custom API and published over 18,000 of very high quality, the maximum possible quality. Over 80% of the records is tier 4 for this set. Regarding enrichment, it was already enriched from generic sources. And the final institution is American Sephardi Federation. The source was Mark 21. We published almost 3,000 of records, and we processed and served media as IIIF. And to summarize what we did, we published almost 250 records from 17 partner institutions. Most of them were text and images, but also music and sound samples. We enriched over 50,000 of generic records from generic sources, and over 10,000 records were enriched from Judaica specific sources. And regarding media, we transformed and served over 30,000 of media, of large media files to IIIF viewer. That's it from my side. I would like to thank Europeana aggregation team and personally to Rendina for close cooperation. And thank you for attention. If you have any questions, please.
Thanks, Vadim. And I'm sure you were getting very excited as you saw your own institution in this nice list. Are there any questions to Vadim now?
Not in the chat now.
Okay, then I'll continue with my part, with the session. Just a second. Oh, yeah, sorry. So let's go through it once again. It's a very nice list, and it's a very good opportunity to thank all our partners who were working with us relentlessly on making this content available on Europeana. So having heard about these achievements that we are very proud about, we built a robust and modern system for aggregation and publishing of Jewish heritage content, which is up and running and available for other usage and scenarios, publishing scenarios, and having aggregated almost 250,000 of records, high quality records into Europeana. I would like to say a couple of words about other things that we are already doing and that we are planning to do with this content in addition to Europeana. And while I'm doing this, and after I discuss this, give several examples, I also want to say how we see basically these kind of technologies and apps using our community also in the future in a consolidated way. So let's start with some examples that we do with aggregated content. First, the project I'm very proud about is a project where we aggregate Passover Aggadot and other Passover-related materials, such as recordings. This is called the Yachad.net project that we are going to extend also to other Jewish holidays other than Passover, but now we are focusing on Passover. This project will run for the second time this year. It has been funded by the Fooksman Family Foundation that will be with us or is already with us. And Eugene from the foundation will be in the last session today. And we are developing basically an opportunity for Jewish families who unfortunately cannot come together this year as well as last year. We're developing a video chat for spending the Passover Eve together and browsing through one of the many wonderful Aggadot aggregated by us from our partners. Last year we had the collection of 20 Aggadot. This year we are aiming at around 50 Aggadot. Historical Aggadot, contemporary Aggadot, and the project will have a series of blogs featuring the special Aggadot or featuring some special themes related to Passover. And as an aside, if you have this kind of content, Aggadot or other Passover-related content, please get in touch with us. We will be very keen to feature it on the project. The next example is a joint work that we do with the Museum of the Jewish People in Tel Aviv, where we engage visitors with Jewish genealogy, both on-site visitors and online visitors. And we do it using the famous platform for popular genealogy, geneo.com. And we use it basically to establish family connections between a visitor and famous Jewish figures from the collection of the museum. This is an app that once is authorized to access a personal profile of a visitor on geneo.com, offers to the user a series of family connections of different lengths that the visitor can experience, and also approach those family members that they discover. But this kind of application can work with any collection of biographical or genealogical data. So now we're working with the Bedat Futsot collection, but we know already in our network that there are a lot of other collections that we can use to develop this kind of engagements. Another example is another project which was funded by the Connecting Europe facility of the European Commission. It's called multilingual chatbot. We developed it for Europeana, but it is easily portable and applicable also to specific subsets, to Jewish collections. And this is a chatbot, a conversational experience, conversational interface where people can actually talk about collections. It's a very lightweight and engaging means, and there is a lot of AI wisdom behind it, which is the AI engine is trained to recognize common questions about collections. It extracts meaningful entities such as people or persons, such as people or places, or artistic styles from the content, and fits the questions and presents relevant records. to the user. So yes, we developed it for Europeana. You can, I have forgot to put the link. It lives now on culturebot.eu, but it's easily applicable to other collections. Another example is this project is location-based content. And this is actually the work which is starting. We are very proud about this work. It will be done. We'll start on this project in March. This will be done under the Jewish History Tours project, which has been recently selected for funding by the European Commission, and we are very happy about that. And this is a series of tools to engage people on the move out there in the streets and people online and visitors online to engage them with location-specific content. So photographs, historical photographs of places, or stories about places, documents, personal memories. And what we are going to do in that project is developing mobile and online tours and trails across this kind of heritage materials. So very applicable for Jewish quarters and for other places with the rich Jewish history. The outcomes of this project will be published on commercial storytelling platforms like the Greek Clio app, which is a partner in the project, or also on open platforms like Easy Travel, which is a very popular open platform for storytelling, location-based storytelling. In addition to that, we do have a online collections portal for publishing digital collections online. Currently on our website of GHN, you will see a data set level portal, which is really displaying just high level information about the data set, but we are working also on record level collection portal that will be, we will use also to publish all the aggregated content. And we will also be able to publish a subset or sub-selection of content through this kind of collections. Built into this system are quite advanced search functionality and a personal recommendation tool. Finally, so while as we are working on all this project, we keep remembering that we are a network, and in addition, we wouldn't like all these projects to be developed only as a one-off development for a specific partner or for a specific funder, or in the context of one specific project. We are always thinking how we can make this kind of technologies and apps also available for all our partners to use with their collections. And that's basically our strategic project for this year, which is already funded, and we call it a J-Hub. It's a temporary name. We will come with a better name. That's what we have now. And the idea behind this project is basically to create a home, kind of an app store for Jewish heritage applications, where every partner can create their own tools of this kind with their own subsets of collections. And this project will be actively developed in this year. We already started working on this. This is work in progress. So every partner will have their own dashboard, where so in the dashboard will feature the content collection, where all the aggregated content will be displayed. It's very similar to the content management system that Alex presented, and then there will be also an ability to use this dashboard to create a new project. And then when a new project is created, then the user just selects one of the available apps, and all the different apps and technologies that I showed, and the ones which are coming in the future, will be featured in this app section. So the user will choose the app, and then the user will choose the relevant content for this app. So for example, if we are talking about Yachad, then they will be able to choose the Agadot from their collection. And then once the app is selected, and once the content is selected for the app, the user will be able just to launch the app. under their own name and URL. But behind the scenes, it will be powered by this JHA project. So this is a strategic project for us where we are, and we are really putting a lot of effort into consolidating all these one-off developments that we discussed into and packing it under the one umbrella of this JHA project. And we hope that in this way, we are going to take one or more steps ahead in fulfilling our mission, which is making Jewish heritage available for online for various audiences. So Alex presented how we basically prepare content shared with us by our partners for these audiences. And Vadim presented how we fulfilled our main and strategic use case of connecting to Europeana. And this JHA project, which I presented to you, is how we see also many other use cases and interesting engagement scenarios also being supported by Jewish Heritage Network on top of the aggregated content. And I think we are almost there with the end of the first session. Are there any questions about this to Alex or to Vadim or to me?
Don't think so.
Hi, everybody. I think you can hear me. So we officially start at 4:15, but as you know, everybody is experimenting in this day and age, and we're still trying to figure out how these online events go. And because we actually kept to schedule, we're realizing that this first break was a bit longer. So if we stick to schedule for this next session, then we will probably shorten the break just slightly, but we will tell you, and that is because we realize that everybody is spending a lot of time online, and so any moment that we can preserve your eyes, we will try to do that. That being said, we have a lot of exciting and interesting material coming to you in this next session. So let me figure out how I can share my screen. Share screen, share this. And now I think everybody can see for our next session. We have 3 more minutes. So let me just chat a little bit while people come back. Hopefully everybody's gotten a cup of coffee or a nice cup of tea and a biscuit. But you know, in the first session, it was really about harvesting data, right? And getting all of these holdings from archives and from museums all together in one place. And so it's natural that the next session, session 2, is on digital curation, right? Because the question becomes, when you have all of this data material together, what do you do with it? And that's really where I come in also with the Jewish Heritage Network, because I say, well, we have all this great material, let's do something impactful with it, right? Let's reach people, let's make it interesting. And so I'm going to give kind of a global idea about this. And then the 2 speakers who are going to follow me will give specific examples of where the Jewish Heritage Network facilitates and collaborates with different partners to make digital curation possible. So we still have 3 minutes to go. I'm not really sure who's online and who's just, you know, has their screens off and is probably doing something else, helping children with homework, responding to a colleague's email. But I am, you know, in my own little Ashkenazi New Yorker way, going to try to very much stick to our schedule and officially start in 2 minutes. In the meantime, some other thoughts. Some people have asked what Europeana is, and Adrian's going to speak about that. But of course, I also invite everybody to go on the Europeana page and search around, see the different types of images. If you work for a museum or an archive, this is the type of This is probably where some of your material has gone. And if you have questions about how it's used in the context of Europeana and Judaica, I invite you to send me an email after this symposium, and I'm happy to discuss that with you and also hear your ideas. So it is now 4:14, and I think we can officially start this session. Okay, so my name is Sasha Goldstein-Sabbah, and I am the digital curator of the Jewish Heritage Network, and I will be hosting this session, which means I'm also presenting myself. A little about me: I am American, as you can hear by my accent, but I'm located in the Netherlands. I have a PhD in Jewish history. I'm a specialist on the history of Jews in the Islamic world in particular, but I'm very interested in pan-Jewish movements in the late 19th and early 20th century, which is why I like working as a digital curator, because I have access to all sorts of interesting documents and art and music. And I also have a background in academic publishing, having worked at Brill and at Springer, and having consulted on lots of Judaica-related publishing projects. So that's a little bit about me, and I will introduce the other speakers right before their presentations. So now, as they say, on with the show. My presentation is called Putting End Users at the Center of Digital Curation. Actually, I made 2 slides. And the reason that I called it this is because a lot of times when we come from the perspective of the archive or the museum, we just think about getting everything out there, right? When we begin to think about online. But I think it's very important to kind of turn the tables and not to think about the museum insider or the archive insider, but to actually think about the person who will be accessing this material and how they come to it, and how we can take all of this aggregated data and put it together in an important way. And that's really where we come to this idea of digital curation, right? So the main words we use when we talk about this are preservation. And preservation in this case means making sure that the URL links are consistent so people can share material with their friends, or they can use them for research citation purposes. It's maintenance. Again, it's making sure the websites are using the latest technology to improve discoverability and speed. If you've ever tried to download a large document, you know how frustrating that can be. And then it's continuing to collect and improve the amount of content from collections and archives, right? So we add value by building these digital repositories, but then by organizing them in a way which is coherent and accessible. So discoverability: can you find the material you're looking for? Sustainability: is it able to stay on a specific platform? And inclusivity: is it accessible to everybody, right? And not everything is accessible to everybody because there are different levels, and that's something I'll talk about a little later. So what we do really is we start with this aggregation, and that's why I really like the graphic, which I have up here, and then we slowly distill it, and we elevate certain things which we think are important from the group we're trying to reach. And then we also try perhaps to put different pieces together to provoke people to think. And that's what's amazing about digital curation, because you can take something from the Joodse Historisch Museum in Amsterdam, and you can juxtapose that with something at YIVO and something from the National Library in Israel. And that's really where you have impactful digital curation, because you're able to do things in a visual context, which are impossible in brick and mortar museums. And so right now, of course, the only way to really enjoy a museum, at least in the Netherlands, is online. Digital curation is really important, even once we're out of this lockdown situation, because it's where the possibilities in museum curation become unlimited. The formats, right? So one is this idea, and someone asked about this, of digital museums and exhibits. And we're working with different tools, such as JStory, and as kind of with Europeana, I'll be curating a small exhibit on Jewish women in the spring, for example. But it's also improving and enriching other types of online events, so book talks or readings, right? So this means that in addition to presenting your book or presenting a piece, you can include images, sound bites, video with it through curation tools, right? You can do interactive educational programs, which I think are particularly important right now, where so many children around the world are remotely learning. Virtual tours, right? And this is what Pavel talked about. So right now, again, we're not traveling, but you can travel virtually using different technology with mapping and then using museum collections. And then even later, when people are able to travel, you can visit a historic Jewish community, but then be able to access material which is relevant to that community, which might be in a museum thousands of kilometers away. Blogs and vlogs, another way to build communication, and then curated databases. So instead of just throwing everything into a large database, which also has its benefits, and I'll talk about that a little later, you can also make a curated selection to tell a story, right? And you can say, this is a database which was curated by this person, and very carefully define how these choices were made. But that's also, of course, a form of digital curation. So the big issue, I think, and at least this is how I start out when I work on a project, is this idea of targeting users, right? Because different users have different objectives, and they will work with your material in different ways, right? Their interaction will inherently be different. And I think the most challenging group is actually the general public, right? Because they're using these platforms from a perspective of entertainment. And if you want entertainment, you need to have a captive audience. So if we're talking about a captive audience, this is one moment. Sorry, my husband just knocked on my office door. One thing, if we're talking about a captive audience, you could look at what YIVO did with their course on cooking, right? And there they were able to mix in video, but with also historic parts of their collection. And that was really fun. And it was really immersive, but at the same time, the academic level was very, very high. And I think they were really successful. And I think that is the most challenging thing, is to build online content which is impactful for the general public. Then there's academics, right? Because you can't always get to the archive you want to work in or work in the library you want to work in. But if we can build good quality digital collections, that is extremely important. And digital curation is needed there in decisions and in keywords, for example, how people can access documents. And it would be really interesting, Linda Levy, who asked a question, I think, of the JDC, right? I mean, looking at how your archive is used and how that can be improved to really stimulate researchers who can't get to New York or Jerusalem. University students, again, a research tool. More and more university students are being pushed to use primary source documents and making these tools accessible to people who aren't quite as sophisticated as university researchers, so that they can produce quality education. Primary and high school students, so that is then working with teachers so that teachers can integrate primary source material. And there are lots of really creative ways that one can do this. The Jewish Historical Museum has a virtual city, and you can see different videos and documents of people talking about the experiences of the Jewish community in World War II in the Netherlands. And I think that's a really innovative, immersive way to use digital curation, and it's used by Dutch school children around the Netherlands. And then I think finally, for professionals, right? Research, continuing education, digital curation, and bringing museums virtually to people is really important. So again, you have to think about who's using it, bringing it to their level, how much energy and attention they have for your work. But if you think about this, I think there are some really beautiful things that can be done. I cited a couple of examples. I'm happy to answer more questions about that. Challenges. Digital curation is not without challenges, and this is another thing that we're always looking towards. So one is that interface user-friendly, right? Because if it is not user-friendly, you will lose your captive audience very, very quickly, and it will be difficult to get them back. rights and permissions. So there we work with libraries and we work with museums and we work with archives, but that's also a challenge because when you want to bring together different partners, sometimes people are reticent to share their collections online. Discoverability, which involves quality keywords, working with Google at times to make sure that it's discoverable within search engines, choosing appropriate format choices, right? For research, few researchers actually use their cell phones to access material. But of course, if we're looking at digital curation and how it's used on a smartphone, well, that's a different format. And sometimes you can't easily transfer from one format to another. And then finally, development time, right? I mean, we're not even really a year into COVID, and it's amazing everything that's been able to be developed. But it's very quick, and bringing together different partners and working with the technological needs is certainly a challenge, and it's something we're always working with. And I think the example of that is really the Yachad project, which got up and running last year in a very, very short period of time. So on just kind of a final note of my little talk, I think what's really wonderful about the Jewish Heritage Network and all of its partnerships is this idea of cultivating synergy, right? And going beyond the limitations of the static museum or static archive, which has its collection and is not regularly acquiring new material. Because when we work together, we can make better collections, which can serve more people in new and exciting ways. So I will stop there. Thank you very, very much for your time. I look forward to answering all of your questions. And I think we're going to now wait for the questions until the end of the full session. And I'm going to introduce Adrian. So Adrian Murphy works at Europeana, and he's part of the collection engagements team. So he's really going to talk about Europeana. And he works in partnership with pan-European cultural heritage institutions, developing participatory campaigns, and he really works on Europeana's editorial strategy and how to do outreach. So I think his talk is, first of all, going to inform you a little bit about Europeana, but then it will really provide a case study for some of the points I talked about in regard to engagement and how to cultivate synergy. So Adrian, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Sasha. Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Great.
Hopefully you all hear me well. I think so. Okay, so I'm going to talk today about Europeana. So thank you very much for the invitation to be here, and it's really great to hear the results of the Judaica 2.0 project and see that your network has been revived and is continuing to grow. So very quickly to begin with, a little introduction to Europeana. Europeana is an open data platform. It's an initiative of the European Union. On our website, we publish millions of digital objects from around 3,500 plus galleries, libraries, archives, and museums from all across Europe. Our key kind of digital product is a website called Europeana. It's europeana.eu, and a suite of APIs which allow access to all the data that's in Europeana. We do an awful lot of work to support the cultural heritage sector with its digital transformation in a variety of different ways, most of which I won't have time to talk about today. So a little bit more about the Europeana initiative. It actually is a multitude of different organizations that come together. I work for an organization based in the Netherlands called the Europeana Foundation. There is also an organization called the Europeana Aggregators Forum, which are sort of organizations that help bring the data into Europeana, as well as being websites and portals in their own right. And we also have a network association of people who work in the cultural heritage sector or technology side of things, who are experts in their field and want to share knowledge and information. So the organization I work for is Europeana Foundation. We have about 60 staff, about 17 different nationalities, half and half male and female. Our offices, which we're not visiting right now, are in the Royal Library of the Netherlands in The Hague, although I'm currently in Ireland. And the whole Europeana initiative was founded in 2008. So today, what I'm going to talk about is not so much what work we do on supporting cultural heritage organizations in digitization and transformation and so on, but talk about creative reuse of cultural heritage collections. As Sasha said, I work for the collections engagement team of Europeana, and our job is to help engage people with those collections that you can find on Europeana. So Europeana, at an introduction, is a website. On that website, you'll find images, text, 3D, sound, video, a whole variety, up to 60 million different records of cultural heritage from around Europe. That content is available in 35 plus different languages, and the interface of the website is available in 26 languages. What we aim to show on the site is trustworthy cultural heritage, so authentic catalog information from the source. So whatever the museum or gallery library has written in their catalog is what will be displayed on Europeana. Clear attribution to the creator and rights holder of that information, a visible license or rights statement, and a direct link back to the object on the data provider, the Cultural Heritage Institution's website. Now, with 60 million different records, that is probably too much for any one person to look at any one time. So we have tried to divide the site up into different kind of collections and topical pages, which bring together these digitized collections and editorial features. These are on themes like the First World War, art, industrial heritage, maps and geography, and include also editorial that we have written or that our partners have written on topics like LGBTQ, on architecture, and indeed on Jewish history. We use three main formats for our editorial. These are blogs, galleries, and exhibitions. It's very important for us to be able to not just display these collections, but give context and tell the stories that are behind those. So blogs are short articles that bring together collections on a specific topic or theme. Galleries are collections of mostly images, and exhibitions are longer form online articles, generally of between 5 and 7 chapters. Some examples of these are a gallery that we published on synagogues, so showing photographs, postcards, drawings, and so on of synagogues, many of which are sadly no longer present. A blog written by Sasha on remembering the Jews of Arab lands, showcasing and talking about centuries-old communities, which were an integral part of larger Arab societies. And just published today a blog about Ben Brill, who was the youngest ever Olympic boxer, and he was Jewish and from Amsterdam. So an important part also of our work is not just that we are telling the stories, but we're also inviting participation from our audiences. So we have a part of our site which invites people to share their stories. These are on a number of different topics, which I'll talk about in a moment. Usually we do these at events that are called collection days. That's not been so possible last year, I should say, and indeed this year. But also people can share their stories online. Oops, daisy. Let me just quickly go back to my presentation. So these topics are on World War I. 1989, we did a project on that, which was about the fall of the Berlin Wall and the change from communism in Eastern Europe. Migration, on working life and industrial heritage, and now our current and most newest one is about sport. You can also curate your own galleries on Europeana. This is a new feature which rolled out at the beginning of, at the end of last year, and we're beginning to launch that at the moment. So an important part of what we do also is to not just publish things sort of at random, but to think about different seasons and campaigns, which vary in their scope and duration, but they're designed to highlight and promote high quality content on Europeana's platform and indeed elsewhere. So we've done a number of these and continue to do these. Women's History Month, we started this in 2019 and followed in 2020. It was a little bit interrupted by the pandemic because it happens in March each year. And we will do that also again in 2021, highlighting stories and collections about women's history. Europeana Migration was a project that we ran from 2018, which looked at the history of migration to, from, and within Europe, and showing how migration has impacted and shaped European culture. In 2019, we looked at Europe at Work, which is about industrial heritage and working lives. In 2017, I think that my date might be wrong about that, we ran a season about Art Nouveau and its influence on art across Europe. And then in summer of 2020, we looked at discovering Europe as Europe was slowly beginning to reopen again after the pandemic, or at least the first wave of the pandemic. We featured a lot of articles and editorial about European landmarks and landscapes. So to give a little bit more of an example on that, Women's History Season, which we run each year in March, has been showcasing stories from 4 centuries of women's history, and in that we're using the cultural heritage collections that are on Europeana. So in doing so, we showcased more than 400 different cultural heritage collections from 110 different institutions in 23 countries. It says here across the world, and it's mostly in Europe, but occasionally we will feature things from other places outside Europe. Our next one that we'll be looking at this year is Europeana Sport. That will highlight rich, fascinating collections of sporting heritage in a pan-European context, telling the story of Europe and its communities and their involvement in sport. In fact, we had planned to do this in 2020, but the pandemic cancelled all the sport, and so cancelled also our plans to do that. So we'll be looking at that in 2021. Hopefully when the Olympics will take place, and hopefully when the European Men's Football Championships will be taking place. So a nice moment to discuss sport and with our audiences. So in all of these things, our goal is to engage our audiences, particularly the audiences that are the general public who are looking to cultural heritage for enjoyment. We also do a lot of work in supporting researchers and teachers, but I won't talk about those so much today. In doing this engagement, we hope to highlight the diversity of heritage in local, national, and pan-European contexts. In particular, in 2021, highlighting diversity and a diverse approach to our editorials is part of our business plans. So we want to make sure that we're really showcasing the diversity of collections across Europe. We want to raise awareness of how heritage can tell stories about communities, identity, and other topics. And indeed, for our audiences, we want to have ways that they can participate and take part online, sharing their personal memories and experiences. As I mentioned, we do a lot of work in terms of education. I'll very briefly talk about that, in that we have a part of our site called Europeana Classroom, which involves lots of learning scenarios and educational resources, many of which are actually created by teachers all across Europe. Beyond Europeana as well, we have a number of different activities. We have a partnership with Daily Art, which is a website that and app that sends a new artwork to people's phones each day. So we have a partnership with those where we curate often for a week or so the artworks that they share. We run a project a competition rather, each October called GIF It Up, where we invite people to create and make their own animations from the content that is freely available on Europeana. We do that in partnership with a number of organizations from around the world. Historiana is a website we're a partner of. It's a website for history and community education teachers. And our social media is an important element of this, so that we are bringing people to our website from where they are on social media. We have about 120,000 Facebook followers, around 40,000 Twitter followers, just under 25,000 on Pinterest, 50,000 on our newsletters, and 5,500 Instagram followers. So I'm very happy to take any questions. Also, what I will do is in the chat, I can post some links to the things I mentioned today. And of course, you can send me an email or contact me on LinkedIn if you want. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. You have a question from Rachel on the chat. Thank you for this interesting interview. How many people visit the site on average? What features or tools on your site receive the most traffic? And do you have biographical data on your users? Are they scholars, layfolk, etc.?
So the site gets on average around 500,000 visitors a month. So it's it's quite a lot. In terms of the most popular tools, it's quite a hard thing to answer, but certainly the editorial takes a huge percentage of that. Because the site has 58 or 60 million different individual records, each one of those individually might have a small amount of traffic, because that is a lot of content divided over the user base. But certainly the editorial is where the bulk of the traffic would go. And can you repeat to me the third part of the question?
Do you have biographical data on your users? Are they scholars, lay folks?
It's a combination. We know for sure that the main reasons people are using Europeana is for research purposes, as in professional researchers, as well as teachers for education purposes, and indeed for cultural enjoyment, as it were. In terms of the cultural enjoyment, what we know from some research is that the audience that are there are generally older, and I say that as someone who is 40, so sort of from 35 onwards, and generally are very interested in culture. That's sort of what's bringing them to the website.
Thank you. No more questions?
Okay, great.
No, thank you.
And I just want to clarify something, because I think Adrian used the term editorial, and because I work at Europeana on a project through the Jewish Museum in Amsterdam, what we mean by editorial in this case are blogs, which integrate a lot of rich imagery in them, and then galleries, so those are thematic collections, and then also what we call exhibits. And the exhibits are actually then groupings with chapters. So I invite you to look on Europeana, and the most recent one I helped with was the changing idea of the family in Europe in the 20th century. So I think you can get an idea, and I think it will become apparent very quickly how somebody in education, for example, could use that exhibit. And then I see a question from Haim Gottschalk. My question concerns with cataloging aspect that leads to discoverability. How much data is inputted into the record? Is it skeletal or detail? How much of the data is migrated? How is digitized object and item and bibliographic record linked? And does the searching take place in OPAC? Okay, so I can't answer everything for you on that, but what I will say is we worked very hard to maintain as much of the data as possible from the original cataloging. But different archives and different museums use different methodology. And so therefore, particularly on a platform like Europeana, sometimes it's skeletal and sometimes it's much more precise. And you can find that even within Europeana. We do try to improve the data whenever we can, but that's not always possible. Afterwards, if you talk about other projects, I think it really depends on the type of project it is. If you're doing some type of digital exhibit for a museum, you probably wouldn't give too much information. But if you're trying to develop something which is more for a research tool, for example, then of course you would want to have the best data possible. So it's kind of a vague answer to your question, and I have to apologize for that. But I would say we really strive to make available as much material as possible when appropriate. So that's the answer. I guess we'll move on to our next speaker, who I'm delighted to introduce. But obviously, if you have questions, we'll have time at the end of this session to discuss in greater detail, and you can always email me after the event. So with no further ado, I'm delighted to introduce Eddy Portnoy, who holds a PhD in Jewish history from the Jewish Theological Seminary. Oh my gosh. And he also has an MA in Yiddish Studies from Columbia. Currently, he serves as the academic advisor for the Max Weinreich Center and director of exhibitions at the YIVO Institute for Jewish Research. And he's a specialist in Jewish mass culture. And I mean, if you know anything about Eddy, his work has appeared in many places. His innovative exhibits have received accolades from places like the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. And what I would say, and I'll give a shout out to his book, Bad Rabbi and Other Strange But True Stories from the Yiddish Press. It's really, really fabulous. I enjoyed it, and this was even before I met Eddy. And it is the only academic book on Jewish history that I know of that has also had Swedish music composed for it. So without any further ado, Eddy, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sasha, for such an effusive introduction. I really appreciate that. Although, you know, the Jewish Theological Seminary, if that was it's a good Freudian slip, I guess.
Yes, I'm sorry. It's been a long day.
It's good. I enjoyed it. They might not enjoy it, but I liked it. So thank you all so much for being here. This is really interesting and useful. This is obviously a great project to be involved with. And as you saw in some of the previous presentations, YIVO has been mentioned in almost all of them. So we've been connected with Judaica Europeana for a while. I just want to give a really kind of brief introduction to what YIVO is and a bit about its history, because that history plays into some of its archival and online projects. So YIVO was founded in 1925. It was headquartered in Vilna, Poland, which is now Vilnius, Lithuania, but it also had offices in Warsaw, Berlin, in New York, and in New York. It was created in order to collect, document, study, and analyze materials connected to East European Jewry and its diasporas from 1925 to 1940. It collected an enormous amount of material, ranging from books, documents, posters, ephemera, folklore, jokes, linguistic materials, you name it, anything connected to culture. YIVO collected it, and they amassed really quite a large archive and library. When World War II began, Vilna wound up in the Soviet occupied portion of Poland, and they, for a while at least, allowed YIVO to continue working. In 1941, when the Germans attacked the Soviet Union, they overran Vilna. The Nazis did what they did everywhere. They instituted ghettos and began the process of extermination. Now, one coincidence was that a Nazi unit took over the YIVO building, which was not in the ghetto, and they used it as a collecting point for cultural and arts materials that they were plundering from libraries and museums from all over the area. They also had a special interest in Jewish materials because there was an Institute for Research on the Jewish Question in Frankfurt that they were collecting materials for. And they created a slave labor brigade of Jews from the ghetto to catalog and pack these materials. Now, some of these Jews on this slave labor brigade were had worked in YIVO before the war. And while the Nazis weren't interested in things that YIVO had collected, you know, such as the manuscripts and letters of the writer Sholem Aleichem or Yiddish folklore materials, they were forced to pack all kinds of rare Jewish materials, mostly religious related materials, and send them to Frankfurt. What they decided to do was they realized that the Germans were probably going to destroy YIVO's collections when they were done. And so they began to secretly pack these crates going to Germany with YIVO materials that they had collected over the years. and they felt that this was a way they could possibly save the materials that they had collected. They, one of them had wrote in his diary during the war, he said, "We probably won't survive the war, but the Germans won't win, and someone will find this and know what to do with this." So all of these materials were shipped to Frankfurt. Another group within the slave labor brigade working in the YIVO decided that they were going to take materials that they wanted to save, put them under their clothes, and then sneak them back into the ghetto, into the Vilna ghetto, and bury them, which they did. And so thousands and thousands of documents and books were buried in the Vilna ghetto as well, in an attempt to save these materials from the Nazis and from destruction. After the war ends, the materials that were shipped to Germany were discovered by a unit of the US Army called Monuments, Fine Arts, and Artifacts, whose job it was to find rare materials that the Nazis had stolen and repatriate them to their countries of origin. They wound up finding all of these YIVO materials, and coincidentally, someone on this unit had a brother who was connected to YIVO. He contacted his brother, who told YIVO, and they discovered that a large portion of their archives had been saved in this way. They sent people to figure out what it was and what they could do with it. They had to petition the State Department in order to have it sent to their office in New York, which was the only remaining YIVO office, since those in Berlin, Warsaw, and Vilna, the main office, had been destroyed. And since 90% of Vilna's Jews had been exterminated, and then Vilna was now in the Soviet Union, they decided that it was best for these materials to come to YIVO's office in New York. So YIVO wound up with this fairly significant portion of its pre-war archive. The materials that had been buried in the Vilna ghetto were dug up after the war by two or three surviving members of this slave labor brigade. They started a small Jewish museum, but after a short time, it was made clear to them that the Soviet government did not want a Jewish museum to exist. So they began to give packages of these documents and these materials to their friends who were emigrating to the West, and said, when you get to the West, please send this to YIVO's office in New York. They themselves also left and managed to arrange for a truckload of materials to be sent out, and which eventually was put on ships and sent to YIVO New York. And so YIVO wound up with even another portion of its pre-war archive. This still left a very significant, in fact, a very large number of YIVO materials in Vilna with no one to care for it. Fortunately, a Lithuanian librarian by the name of Antonis Ulpas found it and didn't know what it was, but realized it had some import, and he took it to the Church of St. George, which the Soviets had turned into the Lithuanian book chamber. It was really just a church that the Soviets turned into a large book storage facility. He put all of these Yiddish, Hebrew, and there are other languages as well, all of these YIVO materials into the basement of this church, and covered them with Soviet propaganda materials so that when inspectors came through, they would ignore it. And that is exactly what happened. These materials only became known in 1989, my century's off. In 1989, when the Soviet Union began to collapse, Lithuanian librarians contacted YIVO New York and said, we have a large cache of your materials. Please send someone to come help us figure out what to do with it. These materials were eventually entered into the Lithuanian National Library, and YIVO, after many years of negotiations, entered into agreement with them to digitize the entire pre-war Vilna archive, the materials that had been shipped to New York and the materials that were left in Lithuania, and to reunite them in a website online. And that is our Ed Blank YIVO Vilna Collections project, which I'll hopefully have a bit of time to talk about. But so that's I'm sorry for the YIVO's history is somewhat complicated, so I apologize for the story, but it does play into what we're currently doing. So I'm just going to share my screen, and hopefully you can see this is YIVO Archives Digital Resources page. You can see at the top the YIVO Encyclopedia of Jews in Eastern Europe. This is what I was meant to speak about today. This is the splash page for the encyclopedia. This is YIVO's most successful online project. It was created in 2008 based upon a book project, which was the original way that the encyclopedia was conceived, which was published in 2004, but it was quickly evident that this would be extremely valuable if it were placed online. And in short order, a project was undertaken to do just that. And this was created, what was created from it. It has just over 1,800 entries on a huge variety of topics related to Jewish history and culture in Eastern Europe. These entries were created by 450 authors. And as I said, it's YIVO's most successful online project. It nets about between 200 and 250,000 users per year. So it's done very, very well. And just quickly, I can show you what some of it looks like. There are all kinds of topics. Some of them are broader. Some are more specific. You can go to things like photography. This is Jews and photography in Eastern Europe. Obviously, one of the great things about the encyclopedia is it allowed YIVO to use a lot of its archives in creating it. It has suggested reading lists for each entry. There are things like cities. Now, I just want to add that we began talking recently at YIVO about redoing this website because, as I said, it was created in 2008, and it, for instance, it uses Flash, which no longer works. So it really needs to be upgraded to HTML5, current standards for internet usage. And so while it is still very functional, it could be much better. There are also kind of fantasy possibilities being discussed, such as trying to further populate the entries with materials from YIVO's archives, some of which is in the process of being digitized. So that would obviously takes a huge amount of money, and it's not something that may happen immediately. And just to give you a sense of what kinds of things are in here, ceremonial arts, general arts. There's also for a researchers page if you're interested in the synoptic outline of content or the archival resources. That's all available as part of the general encyclopedia. Now, just very quickly, I mentioned the Edward Blank YIVO Vilna online collections. This is a project to, as I said, to digitize all of YIVO's surviving pre-war archives. It's in process now. I think something like 3 million pages have been digitized. Oh, okay. Well, here we go. It's currently being upgraded, so I can't show you what it is, but please come back and take a look at it. it has a huge amount of material in it. It's really incredibly useful. Sasha mentioned YIVO's online, one of YIVO's online courses is, in this case, a seat at the table, Journey into Jewish Food. YIVO has a number of online courses available, including one on food, one on the Yiddish theater, one on folklore, and the class that launched it all was a general discovering Jewish life in Eastern Europe. And one of the purposes of these online classes is to find a way to contextualize YIVO's archives and library material to a larger audience. So throughout these classes, there are sidebars and discussions of the materials in YIVO's archives, which you can see discussed in the classes. So it's just another example of what YIVO is trying to do in order to create online fora for our archives. I think I'm out of time, so I'll stop there. If you have any questions, I will be happy to take them. Thank you.
There are several questions on YIVO. One is related to who is Aaron? No, yeah, Libby. I would love to hear a bit about YIVO in Argentina. And also another question, what YIVO content was aggregated to GHN Europeana, and what other content would YIVO be looking to share? So Argentina.
Okay, so right. So YIVO in New York, YIVO in Argentina, I believe was created after World War II. We have a relationship with them, but we don't do a great deal of work with them. It's something that we hope to do in the future. We actually, when COVID started and a lot of our public programs moved online, one of the first things we did was to sort of have a public conversation with YIVO in Buenos Aires, and in order to discuss what all of us did and how we could collaborate more. But for the time being, it's they're sort of two separate Jewish organizations that basically do very similar things, but in different places. And the other questions, there were 4 questions total. One of them was, what else is YIVO interested to share? Well, we have, obviously, it would be ideal if we could put all of our archives online, but we have, I believe, just over 23 million documents and artifacts in our archives, which is a very large number. And so we're really limited as to what we can put online. As I said, the Vilna Collections Project has been a major project that's been going on for the past 5 years. We've digitized over 3 million pages, and that is all available. It would have to be discussed with the director of our archives and our director as to how exactly this could be used by other organizations. Obviously we collaborated with Judaica Europeana on the encyclopedia. I don't see why not. I don't see why it would be difficult to do it with some of the other projects as well. The purpose of all of this is to make this material available, and the further the reach, really the better.
And I think just tagging on with that is, taking the YIVO encyclopedia and what's been done in terms of data aggregation, and then doing something similar with the Encyclopedia of Jews in the Islamic World, which is what Dov mentioned at the beginning, right? And so also looking to that encyclopedia as really a model for how you can enrich resources with these types of consortia. So there's certainly more that YIVO can do, but I think we can also look at YIVO and the project of the encyclopedia as something that we can copy and build upon for other types of similar reference works.
Yeah, obviously, absolutely. That would be, fantastic to have, any kind of, Jewish encyclopedia or similar project, presented in a similar way.
Okay.
So do we have any other questions about digital curation? Otherwise, it's 5:04 and our final session begins at 5:15. So we have approximately 11 minutes to refresh our teacups, and we'll see everybody back in a little while. Thank you so much. And again, feel free to email any of us if you have further questions about our work. Thank you. Oh, okay.
שמיים סלע הדם, רגב אדמה טרשים. עמק שלנו נגב וים, ברכת שדות חרושים. לילה רודיע, אוהל קטן.
So just let me do that. Okay. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. I will just go in presenter mode. And
Perfect. It's perfect, Paco.
Great. Welcome everybody to this final session for today. So thank you for staying with us till now. Probably you are getting a bit tired, so I hope this final session will be sweet and short. And will offer food for thoughts to all of you. And now we will put the focus on sustainability issues in the digital cultural heritage sector, looking particularly at the priorities of funders, both public and private. We have today with us two excellent guests that represent two of the main sources of funding for JHN, and that actively sustain the development of digital cultural heritage project in different contexts. I'm talking about Fulgencio Sanmartín from the European Commission and Eugene Fooksman from the Fooksman Family Foundation. Allow me to present briefly both of them. I suppose probably you can see their face also in the Zoom window mosaic. So if you don't have your camera on, Fulgencio and Eugene, please switch it on so that people can see you. So let's start from Fulgencio. Fulgencio Sanmartín is a project officer at the European Commission at the G-Connect, working with the Europeana, the e-archiving building block, and the Competence Center for the Conservation of Cultural Heritage. I had the pleasure to meet Fulgencio also in the framework of the DCHE, Digital Cultural Heritage and Europeana expert group, where I was invited as external expert. Then we have here also Eugene Fooksman. Eugene is a software pioneer and the founder of the Fooksman Family Foundation. His philanthropic work follows decades of leadership in Silicon Valley, where as a key developer of messaging service WhatsApp, he helped to transform the high-tech landscape. Eugene established the Fooksman Family Foundation in 2018 as a way to participate more fully in his philanthropy. With an eye on for innovation that fuels social change, his driving force as a positive impact on Israel as a strong nation state, and it support the Jewish world at large in all its diversity. So after this very quick round of presentation, I wanted first to ask Fulgencio to give us an update on the current and future digital cultural heritage priorities at the European Commission. And then we will discuss a bit with Eugene about his view on digital cultural heritage and its sustainability. And after that, we will give the floor also to you in the audience to put forward your question to our guests. In the meantime, of course, if you want, you can anticipate your question also in the chat to optimize the Q&A time afterwards. And yeah, that's all. Fulgencio, the floor is yours then.
Grazie, Marco. And thank you for the GHN for having me, and thank you to all of you. Marco, can I share my screen?
Yeah, I think, oh yeah, right. I have to stop sharing mine, yeah.
That's it. Okay, so I saw some minutes ago the excellent presentation by Adrian from the Europeana Foundation, and also there was a question from the audience asking for an explanation of what Europeana is. And I would like to give this ensemble view that will explain some of the things why we are doing this from the Commission. So the particular thing about this is that you all know the European Union. The particular thing about the culture is that culture is not in the competences of the Commission or in the competences of the European Union. It's in the competences of every member state. And that cannot be transferred as such. So the Commission cannot tell the cultural institutions, do this or don't do that. That is up to the member states. And it makes sense. When it is about economy or it is about the money, then absolutely that is the competence of the Commission, but not about the culture. Anyhow, some 15, 12 years ago, it was decided that it was good to put all the diversity of the European culture in one single place and to be treated in the same way so it could be highlighted from one single place. Also, it could that would help the cultural heritage institutions to continue and to improve their work, because they often struggle with the same problems. We were talking in the chat about the metadata. So, for example, putting a single model. Can you imagine a single model of all the cultural institutions' metadata of all their objects? A single model that fits all, including 24 languages, including 3 different alphabets, including all the diversity around Europe in a single place. Well, I can tell you, it's hard. It is not an easy task, but it was done. And it is being done. It costed a lot of years, some money, but that is what Europeana is about. So the result of that effort was Europeana, which has evolved during the years. And right now, the member states charge the Commission with this task of putting something together that could help the cultural heritage institutions, and I will show you how it implements in the policies. And then, just related to Adrian's presentation, then we at the Commission we did the procurement, because we don't have the means. Particularly the human resources to do that. That is a very specific task, often very technical, particularly about the ontology and the metadata. But that's it. So let's have a look at the policies of the Commission. So the policy of the Commission in digital policy for cultural heritage is based in a number of key instruments. It's a combination of many instruments, including funding programs, projects, etc. We have focused primarily on digitization, on online access, on preservation and reuse, but also we are concentrating now on digital transformation in the cultural sector. So in building the capacity and helping the cultural heritage institutions and the workers to build their knowledge and their capacity to build better and yeah, just better. So the key instrument that we have is this recommendation. It's a recommendation on the digitization and online accessibility on digital preservation of cultural material. This comes from 2011, and it comes to a revision in 2021, so this year. As you can see, many of the things are mostly the same. And this will have an impact on how the funding at national and member state level, but also in regional level will have. It is mostly the same, but there are some things that have changed in 10 years, particularly this building capacity, particularly, for example, the new strategy for Europeana, or the not only doing the tangible cultural heritage, but also the intangible cultural heritage, or the digital cultural heritage, or the born digital cultural heritage data. Those will be important aspects that we will treat in the new recommendation. Now, Europeana objectives for the next period, for the next 5 years, the strategy are somewhat similar to the European Union, actually, in this State of the Union that was given by the President of the Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, some months ago. So she announced that the 3 main aspects of the digital decade that she talked about are infrastructure, data and the cloud, and artificial intelligence and everything related. Well, this is somewhat aligned with the priorities of Europeana. We are talking about infrastructure. We are talking about data, particularly data quality. You have already heard that we have between 54 and 58 million digital objects in Europeana. That depends, because Europeana is not a repository. That is something that is not known by many people. Europeana is an aggregator, so it adds the links and it builds a database of the links to the cultural heritage institutions, because the cultural heritage institutions retain the property and the responsibility as well of all the objects. So if one institution goes off or goes bankrupt, or they have problems, or simply they change from one website to another and they forget to tell the Europeana, then probably the objects will not be available, and then the Europeana Foundation will be looking for them and telling them, please go back. So that is data, the point about data quality and over quantity. So we did very well in the past years about quantity, but we need to focus more on quality. And mainly, this is the main focus, as I already said. We are focusing on the needs of the cultural heritage institutions. One of the new projects that we have at the Commission is this. As it happens, I happen to be the project officer. It started just last January, last 1st of January, so just 3 weeks ago. And it's the Competence Center of the Conservation of Cultural Heritage. There is already a website, and it will be a place for not only for this, for putting together all best practices, all the competencies, but again, for building the capacity of the workers. It will give a particular focus on 3D. That is, 3D is the only part that is highlighted there in bold text, because 3D is the key part, particularly also after the fire of Notre Dame Cathedral right before the coronavirus. You might remember that it was the biggest event about cultural heritage sites and monuments right before the coronavirus took over everything. You might remember the effect, not because it is it is Notre Dame, or because it is France, or it seems like the center of everything in the island of St. Louis, in the center of Paris. No, it was because it was a symbol of what may happen to every other place in Europe. It can happen to every synagogue. It can happen to any place, also in Israel or in New York or in Rome, in any place. So this project also will build, because I just talked to them, they will build a risk map of cultural heritage places that are at risk. So not only because of fire, but also because of earthquakes, or because of floodings, or because of human attacks, let's say, for not saying, the problems about wars and destruction of the cultural heritage. Another project that we have in our unit is the basic principles for 3D digitization. So safety, purpose, copyright, quality, preservation, and so on. Please have a look, because the purposes are very well written, in my opinion. They are very, very simple to follow. And if you have a 3D project, either it is a digitization or just showing off, so I mean disseminating 3D, have a look, because they are very interesting. Another project that we have is a call that closed some days ago, I think just last week, and it is about the collaboration between museums. So it was a call for just one company, one organization, that should reach to I believe to several hundreds of museums, to give them money, so to pay them in order to upgrade, to experiment, to do new things with technologies in an innovative way. The maximum per each museum would be 30,000, but the call is now closed, and we will be evaluating it very, very soon, and you will hear from us because it is also a very interesting project. Now, this is my other project, my other hat. This week we are doing an e-archiving workshop that I believe it has a lot of in common with cultural heritage. I will try to explain it like this. So when we are talking about preservation of cultural heritage, how long do we mean? How long is preservation? Preservation is not digitization. It's not a 3D scan. Preservation is much more. When you do a 3D scan, actually what you are putting, one of the metadata is a date. It's one single date. Even if it is done during a week or a month, it doesn't matter, but it is a date. Preservation is for years to come. And the thing about preservation and archivists is that we don't have a crystal ball. So I don't know what will be the preservation of the cultural heritage in 10 or in 20 years. But I can tell you this. It's the only thing that I know for sure. No matter which format, which support, which cloud you are using right now, it will be outdated in 15 years. No matter which one you are using, it will be outdated. So what can you do in order to really preserve the beautiful songs, Jewish songs that we were listening a moment ago? Well, we don't know what MP3 will be like in 15 years. Maybe it will be still MP3, or it will be other ways. We don't know. Actually, nowadays, CDs are outdated. MP3 is outdated. Right now, the thing is streaming. But maybe in 15 years, there will be another thing. What is the only way of preserving them? The only way, really, is the open tools that we have today, the international standards, the interoperability over time, transparency, and for sure and above everything, migrate every 10 years. That is the key thing in order to preserve our cultural heritage. Be aware that no matter the format, the support, anything, you will need to plan, to preview, to plan for a migration every 10 years. If you don't do that, you will start paying technical debt. On the right side, you can see that e-archiving can help you with it. So I invite you to join our workshop. Tomorrow, by the way, we are doing this e-archiving. In this e-archiving workshop, there will be a part, a round table about cultural heritage in archiving. That's it. So what is the future? You invite me to talk about the future. I have good and mixed news. There are some problems here. I am afraid that we cannot talk that much about the future, because the next cycle, the new program, the Digital Europe, for the next 7 years has been just approved. So we have a general budget and a general sub-budget for every point, but we don't still know how much it will be given to Europeana, how much it will be for the building blocks and the archiving, or for everything. That we still don't know. So Digital for Cultural Heritage will come under the sections for advanced digital skills and for adoption and use on the right side of the slide. But there will be other technologies such as supercomputing, for example, for 3D processing of images, or artificial intelligence for processing natural language, for example, for the project chatbot, and its evolutions for sure, or the metadata enrichment that we are so desperately looking forward to. Those are applications in the cultural heritage sector that Digital Europe will have. The only thing that I can tell you right now is that it seems that Europeana will be split in several points, so it will be addressed properly, we believe, and it will have something, it will be hosted in something called data spaces. Now, I am afraid I cannot tell you more and more details about this, but there will be a lot of opportunities under all these subpoints for all the projects that you will have. Calls probably, so right now the budget has been approved. The Digital Europe, the details will be approved, I believe, during winter. I don't think we will arrive during the next 2 months. And then in Q2 2021, so as of March, April, in spring, in the European spring, we will publish the annual work program and then the individual calls. And there will be calls. Don't worry for that. But that is all we can say. We are changing the program from 7 years, 7 wonderful years under CEF that Europeana was funded. But right now we don't have anything else to show. That's it. Thank you. Over to Marco.
Thank you very much, Fulgencio. Well, perfect. I don't know if it's worth to, but well, let's do it. Let's share anyway the screen, and let's move to our next speaker. You see the screen, right? Okay.
Yes.
I will propose to save questions for Fulgencio for the final Q&A session, and now I wanted to welcome Eugene and ask him a few questions, which hopefully will be also of interest for our audience. So welcome, Eugene. I cannot see you because when I share my screen, I see only a limited number of windows, but I suppose, Eugene, you are here, right?
I'm here.
Okay. Hi. Okay, I see you now. So Eugene, I wanted to ask you, being a technology leader and entrepreneur and investor in the US, what brings you to the cultural heritage scene, and in particular to the European one? It seems kind of interesting, your path in a way. So can you tell us a bit more?
Sure. I started the philanthropic work a few years back, and philanthropy is an interesting area. It has all sorts of angles. It has things that are similar to business. It has things that are completely separate. And when you think about philanthropy, you think about different needs that the world has. Some of them are very immediate. You need to feed the hungry. You need to help, resolve natural crisis and whatnot. But some of them are super long-term projects that essentially you will see the results of that over years, and they create this positive shift in the society. And that it's very easy to kind of miss the importance of them and focus on things that are super immediate right now. And you need to feed the hunger. That there's no question about that. But if you forget about the continuity of culture, if you forget about things that excite us when we look at our history, when we deal with all this, less tangible kind of aspect of our being, you really need to invest in that. So it was pretty natural move for me to start looking at the projects and initiatives that are more long-term and more in the area of culture and preservation and also making a lot of this more accessible to people. That's my thing. That I think is a very, very big part of that.
Okay, yeah, interesting. Which lessons from the tech startup world in which you started should be learned by the cultural heritage sector, you think, when aiming at digital transformation in particular and looking at new business models also? So do you think there is something relevant that the sector, the cultural heritage sector, especially the European one, should learn from the practices of the startup world, the tech startup world?
Definitely. For me, maybe the biggest one, especially, looking back at my path, I started as an engineer. I spent many years as an engineer. And then I did some management, and now I'm in a completely different role where I'm not coding anymore. I'm more looking at the business side and product side and making things happen. It's very similar between nonprofit and the Silicon Valley, let's say, is to never lose track of what exactly are you doing and who are you doing it for, right? So one of the pitfalls that a lot of startups in Silicon Valley are falling into is they have awesome idea, or they have some cool technology, or they have whatever it is they have, and then they fail to make a good product out of it. And as a result, it doesn't reach the user and the whole thing just falls. And I think I've seen the same stories in nonprofit sector as well. And when you specifically talk about digitization and bringing all this cultural heritage into the digital world, the same story. You should make it appealing. You should make it a good product, and not just what my fellow engineers would just say, good engineering or good code, right? It's not enough. So that's one kind of big lesson that is totally applicable here. Another thing is that, the nonprofit world is, again, kind of different, but also kind of similar in a whole bunch of things. For instance, the metrics of success are super important, and you cannot fly blind. You should always see what exactly you're doing. How do you measure that? What did you do better this year versus previous year? Are you reaching more people? And you need to always measure things. And again, this is something that some of the startups kind of fail to do in a good way. And it's not just in order for you to send reports to your donors. It's also for you to really gauge how well you're doing, right? And it's kind of to understand and confirm that you're not doing something that is not impactful. So that's another kind of big thing that is very similar. And any organizations that we as a foundation work with, we always encourage them to think about how they think about their own success and how they measure it.
Interesting. So I hope we, all of my colleagues working in cultural decision, were taking notes now, because I think what you were saying, it seems quite kind of obvious, but it's always quite often overlooked by not only in the tech startup sector, like you were saying, but also especially in the cultural heritage one. Another question, Eugene, in Europe, cultural heritage institutions really rely mainly on public funding, but increasingly we see models around the world which combine different forms of funding. And again, from your perspective or your unique vantage point as both investor and philanthropist, how do you see the potential of such combinations, and what could be the practical step for a cultural institution to explore them? Do you think it's something that can be easily done, or it's something that you see difficult to implement?
That's a big sell. You guys need to make it really appealing, and I know it's not easy, and I've seen the struggle from both sides. As I mentioned, investors, both for profit and non-profit, they're at the end, they're looking for return, right? And what you need to make the case for is that what you are doing is actually giving return on the investment. And sometimes it's not easy, right? Let's say you tell your investor that you're about to digitize 10 million records of some library. Okay, what exactly does it give me, right? So it's always important to kind of work around the messaging and see how you can paint your project in the light that is really appealing for the long term. And you know, there's a lot of vanity in this area. There's a lot of people who want their names on the buildings and so on, and that is what it is. But in the end, the product that is used by people over time is what is interesting. And you sometimes see the great examples of that, right? And I'll bring one funny example. There was this series on Netflix lately about the female chess player called Queen Gambit. All of a sudden, the whole world is playing chess, right? And it was literally a dead game, right? It was played by 12 people around the world, and now everybody is doing it, right? So this is a great example of how if you, and again, obviously not everybody is going to be making Netflix series or something like this, but it was presented to investors in a way that we will make chess cool again, and that's what happened, right? So I think the same approach should happen with the museums and the heritage institutions, and especially with the digitizations. I've been to a museum in New York lately, and to the MoMA, and they changed the way things are presented in such an interesting way that all of a sudden becomes interesting, right? It's not, you're not just walking through that history, you're walking through very interesting history presented in a very cool, interesting way. So again, always remember that this is done for you, for the people, for people who are going to be consuming this art. And if you think from that angle, I think you have a chance to create things that are also interesting for investors, because at the end of the day, investors, looking for this return, and people consuming it is the great return.
I see. So again, it's to have a user-centered approach in everything. Yep. So at user first, and then the money will come probably. Okay. One last question. Probably this is also for Fulgencio eventually. But let's start with you, Eugene. Which is, in your opinion, the best way to foster innovation in the cultural heritage sector? Is there some sort of secret recipe that you can share with us?
I don't know. I don't have the silver bullet for you here. I really don't. It's important to try and see. It's important to course correct. And like Fulgencio said, it's often important. The quality is more important than quantity, right? So yes, definitely look for the winners. The one winning organization will bring more value and kind of create more impact for this whole thing than 10 failing organizations. And as much as I want to support all these great organizations that exist, at the end of the day, it's a brutal world where you need to select a winner or a few winners. And yes, I really think that people who are doing excellent job should get more support. And one interesting difference between nonprofit world and the for-profit is that for-profit is absolutely focused on failing fast. If something doesn't work, die out, do something else. Whereas I see in the nonprofit, quite often there are organizations that stay around for forever. And oftentimes they're not being efficient anymore. Their mission is diluted, and we're not even sure what's going on there. So that is the environment that is not fostering innovation, right? Innovation is when you need to compete. That's where things happen. So, you know, I don't want to turn nonprofit world into Silicon Valley. It has its own, you know, niche and its own mission. But a little bit of this kind of urgency might actually foster innovation.
I see. Yeah. Fulgencio, what do you think? Do you think that in the European cultural heritage landscape, this approach that Eugene was suggesting something in your opinion feasible? I mean, do you think that this is a good way to foster innovation in the sector?
I think that the European museums compete very much between them for the attention, for the traveling, the internal traveling. We know that 95% of the European Union citizens travel include always something about culture. It's very, very marginal, the people who don't visit a castle or a cathedral or anything at all. So I could say that almost every city is competing with every other city, and the museums in it as well. In that sense, I believe that in these times of closing, confinement, staying at home, very limited travel, etc., 3D, virtual reality, augmented reality are really ways to go. So everything that allows to engage, to include the people, the visitors, more into the collections, also in participation with the enriching the collections. So there are many people out there who are really, really eager to participate, to improve the quality of the collections. That is another way. And those are two of the more obvious, because we are already doing that and inviting to do that. Another thing is innovation in education. So how to use the cultural heritage institutions in order to teach the children. That is something that I didn't hear that much today here, but I believe that we are all of a certain age, or I feel like that. And we must pass this to the new generation, and we must convince them that it is worth it. So we must, if we go to the children and tell them, go here and learn this because it is very good for you, probably they will find it boring. So perhaps we should think the other way around and put ourselves in the shoes of a child, and what I would like if I would be a child again, or a child now. You know, we all envy the children with their iPads and their nice applications, etc. So that fostering innovation in education is another thing that I think it is very much worth it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I would continue with, I have a lot of questions actually, but probably looking also at the time, it would be fair to leave the floor also to others. And I'm pretty sure that, for example, Pavel has also a lot of questions. I don't know, Pavel, we want to take the chance and ask something to either Fulgencio or Eugene before leaving the floor also to the other in the audience?
Yes, I do have a question to Fulgencio, and I would like to use this very unique opportunity that we are lucky to have both our institutional funder, Fulgencio, representing the European Commission, and we are very happy to have Eugene here representing our private supporter. And so my basic question is how we can make a happy marriage between these two very different funders. And the question is actually to Fulgencio. Yes, we know about this matching fund mechanism, which the Commission requires in our projects to ensure that projects are needed, not only are funded and supported not only by the Commission. My question is if there will be other mechanisms, for example, if there will be a direct co-funding mechanism to bring different funders into a project, whether this is some thinking which goes on in the Commission.
I'm afraid that, as I said, there is nothing clear at this moment. I can tell you something. The new program is changing quite a lot. So the old program was written in 2010, more or less. It was written for 2014 until 2020. It is completely outdated. And this matching mechanism that you mentioned that is going to change. How much and how far, I can't really tell. There is something that I didn't say because I'm not an expert in this, but I would like to tell you. You know that due to the coronavirus helping the member states and so on, there will be cuts. And there will be cuts in almost every part of the budget. So we would be expecting that, hopefully, since the two major countries which are contributing to the Commission are France and Germany, and France had this. I cannot say that it was good that the Notre Dame had the fire, not at all, please don't misunderstand me. But the Notre Dame fire sparkled this interest into the protection of cultural heritage, and that is something that, okay, we must ride the wave. You know, it is like it was a tsunami, and now there is the coronavirus, there will be cuts. So right now that there is the new program, so it has been approved, the budget, and I really can't tell. So it is the only thing that I cannot tell at this point. But in the as I told you, in the next very few months, it is not just saying, it is because we are in 2021, the previous program ended in 2020, and we are already 25, 26 days into the new year, and we still don't know the calls. We still don't have the calls. And there are projects that are ending that we need to continue. So there will be news very, very soon, in maximum 2-3 months.
Okay, thank you.
Other question from the audience. I think in the chat there was something, right? Probably we can just open the mic. So if some of you would like to make a question to Eddy, Fulgencio or Eugene, can just, you know, open your mic and speak out. I'm talking also to Rachel Weinstein eventually. If you want to just formulate directly your question to one of our two guests.
Sure. Thank you so much. This has really been very enlightening. I'm the managing editor of the Posen Library of Jewish Culture and Civilization. And right now we are looking at our digital tools and how we can be strategic about them. And I'm very curious, you know, someone mentioned how to engage younger audiences. And I'm very curious what you're finding successful specific tools or, you know, anticipated tools that you might create to engage the younger audiences at this point.
So I know, Fulgencio, you were mentioning young audience, but I don't know if you have in mind specific.
I am not an expert at all in this, so I would suggest that you do a specific meeting with the expert in the Europeana Foundation, who is Isabel Crespo, who is the responsible of Europeana education. I can tell you this from what I've seen. Children are interested, or they get our attention when we tell them stories. So you tell them a story about an object, and they will get into it. So get into stories, get interactive. So interactive technologies, virtual reality, etc. Tell the narrative. There are very interesting projects that we have funded, like Historiana, for example, how to tell some history with objects from pictures and 3D and sounds from Europeana. Those are very, very interesting projects, and those are at least two ways that I have seen that they work. They seem to work, at least.
Let me add real quick. I think specific tools are not as important as the model of consumption of the information. So the specific tools will be changing, you know, social networks, whatever, Instagram will die, something else will come on. But what's important and what's really driving it is the model in which they're consuming it. For instance, it's been pretty proven that going from the long format to short format been very successful, right? If instead of bombarding younger audiences with 2-hour lectures, instead you do very nicely formed 6 to 10 minute bites, it gets consumed much more, and it, people get engaged. So and again, I'm not suggesting dumbing everything down to 140 characters like Twitter does, but still finding this kind of nice middle for your content delivery. So those things are more important to watch for than specific tools. That's kind of my message.
Thank you. Other question? Because if not, probably Pavel, I would like to ask you to eventually wrap up. Of course, I would like to thank you again, our speaker, Fooksman and Fulgencio Sanmartín, for joining us for this very interesting session, at least from my side. And yeah, Pavel, floor is yours.
Thank you. I would also like to thank our guests from the last session. I would like to share my screen. So just before my concluding remarks, I would like to show you what our poll showed from the first session, what kind of applications and uses are interesting to you. So I'm very happy to see here that the location-based Jewish Heritage Tour project that we announced here is interesting. And yes, this will be a very big part of our work this year. The content portal, I think it is interesting also is because we still see a lot of collections and which are lacking even a basic digital home. They're not displayed online. And of course we see next to all these fancy and advanced applications, we see as a very core part of our mission this, creating just basic collections online for those materials. This innovative JHub app store for Jewish heritage applications is also interesting. So I'm very happy about all this. Please continue watching what we are doing, and we will also reach out to those who are interested. And to conclude the day, I would like to thank all of you for making it till now, and to suggest a couple of words what we are going to do after this day, which is really an important milestone of us of concluding our strategic Judaica Europeana 2.0 project. So we are going to continue working very seriously on the technology to develop the platform, to add more applications, to consolidate applications into this JHub project. Our special priority next to JHub will be the location-based storytelling, as I mentioned. Someone said today that tourism is disappeared. I don't think so. I think tourism has changed a lot as a result of COVID. A lot of people are traveling locally within their countries. There are a lot of Jewish stories which can be discovered using archives, using museums. What place in Europe doesn't have a Jewish story behind it? So it's our work in this project to uncover these stories, to build engaging storytelling experiences, and to deliver them in wide scale through mobile applications and platform. The next priority is really to grow the network. We now have close to 30 network members. We aggregate content from close to 20 of them. We really want to grow the network. This is what we are about. So if I invite everyone who is here and whose institution is still not a member in JHN, please talk to us. We'll be happy to onboard you and to show you what we can do for you. Please talk to us about that. Not only joining the network is important, but also we would like to make the network a very active part of our governance and decision making. We really see ourselves as a platform which enables our content network to do more for their audiences. And in order to do this successfully, we really need you to help us spell out our strategy. For this, we need to invent new governance mechanisms, and in which way we're going to do that, we're going to discuss it with our board and with our team and with our funders. But I think that's a key priority for JHN to continue keeping its special position in the Jewish heritage domain, continuing the great initiative which was started 12 years ago with Judaica Europeana, the first project. And finally, well, funding is important. That's what makes us, what makes the world go round, and that's what makes us work. We want to continue deepening the relationship with the funders, those who were here today, to engage new funders and to create stable and mutually beneficial funding and business models for GHN, including earned income. In which precisely way, we will also discuss this in 2021. So these are the plans for the future, a lot of plans. We need your support. We need your insight. This day was especially very special for us. We learned a lot. And before I thank you for coming, I also want to thank many people who made this day possible. So first, I would like to thank today's speakers, Edward and Fulgencio and Eugene and Adrian. We really appreciate your coming and contributing to this event. I would like to really thank our own speakers and at the same time the GHN team, our technology team, steered very confidently by Alex, Vadim, Vova, which is, I think you haven't seen him, but he's with us today, and the Broscorp gang from Ukraine, which is helping us with technology. Our curation team, Sasha. I would like to thank Marco, who is also with us in all our beginnings and continuations and endings. I would like to sincerely thank the GHN board for giving us their guidance and sharing with us their wisdom. I would like to thank Lucy and Corinne from the Michael Network, who really helped us amazingly to organize this event behind the scenes, and were helping with the questions. I would like to thank all our network members, all the institutions, a lot of them, a lot of which are here today. And especially from all the network members, I would like to thank the Jewish Historical Museum from Amsterdam. And I would like to thank Henrike, I hope she's here with us today, and Elizabeth and Emil and Anat. Without the help of Jewish Historical Museum in Amsterdam and without their belief in the initiative, all this would not have happened. I would like to thank Europeana for their great help, especially, as Vadim mentioned, but it's worth mentioning again, the aggregation team who did amazing work in supporting our publishing process, especially in the last several weeks, relentlessly pushing new and new updates to the Europeana database. So Adrian, if you are still here with us, please send our best to the aggregation team and to Adina. Of course, I would like to thank our funders, the European Commission via Fulgencio, the Fooksman Family Foundation, which is supporting us in our new strategic and innovative projects and inspiring us. So I want to thank them for letting us do what we do. And of course, I would like to thank everyone who who came to this event, shared with us the special day, and even made it to this very late hour. To all our guests, I think we had 90 persons at the high moment, which is a very high show-up rate. I take it as a very good sign. So thank you all for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed, and we hope to meet you soon in our next events that will be announced in the future.
We ask everyone to turn the camera on just for a final.
Yes. And I would like to thank Iran for choosing this amazing music we listened to. Someone is taking the picture? Are we good? Thank you all very, very much. All the best.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.